Blessed day, beautiful and blessed. Welcome to The Real Deal with Dr. VJ McNeal. If it ain't real, it's not a deal. I want you to keep that in mind. If it ain't real, it's not a deal. Let's get right into the deals for today. Unless you've been in a monastery on Tibet Mountain somewhere, you've heard about the hoopla in the NCAA Women's Championship between LSU Tigers and the Iowa Cyclones. Have you heard about what's happening? It was an awesome game. I enjoyed the game. Matter of fact, I enjoyed that game better than the men's game. That Caitlin Clark is some kind of player. I tell you, the Angel Morris is some kind of player, and Alex Morris is some kind of player, and Angel Reese also players. Wonderful women basketball. Matter of fact, I watched them, and I didn't even want to watch the men's game. Yes, I said, put on the ladies again. But after that wonderful game, of course, the LSU Tigers won it. Go Tigers. First time any LSU championship, men or women's. And so we give them big props. But at the end of the game, there was some good-natured taunting. And so we're going to get into that a little bit later. We have some callers on the line, but we'll get into that later. What I want to talk about today is white privilege in sports. White privilege in sports. That's nothing new in America. America has a history of sports racism and white supremacy, white privilege or white hegemony and discrimination in whatever the sport is. We always know that right is right and black needs to get back. And there was double standards since the beginning of sports. You can find those double standards with Jack Johnson, the great boxer. They tried to disregard him and disrespect him and put all sorts of things to make him not even worthy to be in the boxing. Of course, Muhammad Ali, they always excoriated him. He had a loud mouth, and they couldn't stand that loud mouth, but he backed it up with his fist. So this is not a strange thing to me. Always been racism and double standards in sports. And so you know the story. You saw the John Cena, "You can't see me," that taunt. Of course, Caitlin had done it to a couple of teams. And now Angel Reese point to that ring, "You can't see me." And then we had backlash from every white supremacy, low-key racist, especially Keith Olbermann in ESPN Sports. And we're going to get to that later. But since you got a quick deal on that, we got a couple of callers on the line, about 3 callers. So we can bring in caller number 1.
Good morning, Dr. McNeal. Good morning. It is a pleasure to be on.
All right, who we got there?
It's Robert Avery. I'm on a call from Miami, Florida.
Rob Avery. All right, from Miami, Florida. Good to have you. Did you see the game, Rob?
I actually did not see the game. I was aware of the buildup. I am from Philadelphia, native, and so I was cheering for Dawn Staley's team. And yes, Caitlin Clark did her thing, and they eliminated my team in Dawn Staley, South Carolina Gamecocks. So I really wasn't interested in the game, but I did know prior to that game, Caitlin Clark had the bravado of like talking about how they're going to beat South Carolina, and they did accomplish that goal. And so I was rooting for LSU. You know, whenever your team loses, you want the next team to kind of beat that team. So I didn't see the game, but I was happy to see the outcome of the LSU Iowa game. And so if I'm going to dive right in, or do you want to
dive right in? You know the hoopla surrounding Angel Reese. So give us your thoughts on that. You have this white great basketball player and this black great basketball player did the same thing basically, and one was thought to be, hey, that's the Mamba mentality, and the other just a hood rat. Talk about that.
Yes.
What are your thoughts?
So,
is it a real deal if it's not a deal?
Go ahead. It's It's a very interesting, but I'm going to get to a foundation of what I think was built up behind it. And so we know right now, culturally, basketball is dominated by predominantly African Americans, more athletic, unfortunately, and not even unfortunately, just genetically, in a lot of ways superior, and no, just factual, nothing like opinionated from what we see. And so I think culturally, in our country, we talk about white privilege, and I really, really quickly want to challenge the notion of white privilege. It bothers my soul that we call it white privilege. I call it white head start, because unfortunately, when we arrived on this continent, we weren't allowed to do things for many hundreds of years. We were held back from reading, held back from having our own land, held back for so long, and they had hundreds of years of head start. So for a long time, they dominated sports. They dominated everything, and I think, and then the lack of accountability and being aware that, listen, give another race a chance. And when we did get the opportunity to finally compete, they saw how dominant we could be. And we look at Jesse Owens in that one Olympics. Hitler invited the world.
Yes.
He thought the Aryan race was the superior race. Here comes Jesse Owens, blow the competitors out the water. And so that leads up to my thought is that culturally in this country, the game was a little bit more than just a game. You had a predominantly white team in Iowa who beat an amazing team, undefeated team, a Dawn Staley team, competing against another team in LSU who, yes, had predominantly African-American females. So there was an underlying cultural rooting on both sides, I believe, from both races cheering for their respective race. And so I think that really fed into the aftermath of what happened. I played football in college, and listen, when I say how competitive, when you play, especially at college at that level, you're competing day in, day out. You're waking up to practice. You're putting all your blood, sweat, and tears in it.
Yes,
and so, long story short, you're giving all that you have on that court, and it's going to bring out the most competitive nature in you. And so, and yes, taunting happens. And so I could not stand that she received the backlash for doing the same thing that Caitlin did 3 or 4 games prior to lead up to that game. And what was crazy is John Cena, the actual guy who created the signal, celebrated Caitlin's move and was quiet on the fact. I wish he would have came out and said, I love that Caitlin Reese did it back, or something along, because in wrestling they do it to each other. And so I would have loved to see him celebrate that. But again, it goes to that the culture of just, I think deep down in our country is just rooted that the racism is still there. The fact that we cheer for our own races, unfortunately, is still there, and I think we still have a long way to go. But I just really believe it's deeply rooted in our culture. That
absolutely, Rob. Absolutely.
Go ahead, I'm sorry. Yes.
Absolutely. It is a deep cultural thing that's ever since they brought our ancestors to this continent. We've always had the white. When we say white privilege, white superiority, it's not that they are privileged and that they are superior. This is how they view themselves, and they view everyone else as being inferior. And of course, 5 white girls from Iowa had no business. Black girls has no business beating them.
Yes.
And of course, it goes back to the old Jack Johnson thing when he was the heavyweight champion, and they always had the Great White Hope. And no matter what the sport is, they always. Even the NBA, when Larry Bird, he was a bad boy, give him all the props in the world. And so that is a part of the American culture, because we do have white hegemony, which means white control, white power in this nation. And regardless of the sport, regardless of the entity, white wants to always be right. And so, and so this was just a microcosm of that deeper issue that we are dealing with in America. And when the audacity of black speaking up, showing their brilliance and their boldness, it speaks powerfully to that. And so it is a part of the culture that we are dealing with, and that white is always right and black we need to get back. And so and when Keith Olbermann talks about this classless MF idiot, it goes back again to this white male dominance in this country. When you have the audacity, the unmitigated gall to speak that vain to a young lady, a beautiful young lady, 20 years old or less, who does that other than a person who has some type of privilege and or a superiority complex? Thanks, Rob. Those are great observations.
Yes.
We're going to move on to our next caller.
Hello, Dr. McNeal. This is Rendell Hill, and I'm calling from Belleville, Illinois.
Hey,
I wanted to
Rendell,
just
how
chime
you
in on the
doing?
topic of discussion real quick here.
Yes, sir. You've been listening
Yeah.
to the discussion. Give us your thoughts on it.
Okay, yeah. My thoughts. I'm going to go back to the entire Final Four. You know, starting with the game on Friday. Like the previous caller said, he was pulling for Dawn Staley, and so was I. You know, I like her as a coach. You know, and I think
Yes.
that one day maybe she could
Awesome.
probably be a men's coach. But anyway, I watched the game, and Iowa had an excellent game plan, and Caitlin Clark put on the show. I mean, she was balling her.
She's a bad
She
lady.
was balling out of control. And there was one particular play where they were not guarding the outside shooters, and there was a young lady from South Carolina out behind the 3-point line, and Kayla Clark just kind of waved at her. You just gave her like a disrespectful wave, like, I'm not even going to come out there and guard you.
Yeah.
You know?
Hey,
And I know
Rendell.
some of the comments.
Rendell, I
Sorry?
saw that. She like, you ain't nothing.
Right. Right, yeah.
You shouldn't even be
And
on
I
this
saw
court
some of
with
the
me.
commentators kind of commented on that, and they thought it was a big deal, on all that or whatever. And so that was part of their game plan, not to guard the outside shooter. But I thought that was kind of like a disrespectful gesture, But hey, she can play and she can back it up, and she put on a good game. She played a very good game on Friday. And so they were kind of celebrating or whatever. And I know that she had John Cena during the tournament. And I told my wife, I said, hey, when you win, you can do that. I said, you can't take nothing from her. She balled.
Oh yes, she did.
They
Can't take nothing
They
from
beat an
Caitlin.
undefeated team. Yep. And so she had the right to celebrate, do whatever. And you couldn't take nothing from her on Friday. Come Sunday, when they played LSU, they had to have a different game plan. And LSU had the athletes that could match up with her, and she didn't have her way so much,
Yeah, she had a tough
when it
time.
came to the end of the game, I'm sorry, sir.
Yes, she had a tough time, but she still got her punts
Yeah.
on.
Right, yes. She had a tough time, but LSU had the athletes that could match up with her, and they won the game. And previous to all the highlights, they were showing Caitlin Clark doing the John Cena "you can't see me" gesture all throughout the tournament, and it was celebrated as that's swag and that's toughness or whatever the case may be, But when they lost that game, and when Angel Reese did it, they didn't like that. And I'll be honest with you, sir, I was quite surprised at all the backlash that Angel Reese got after all the love that Caitlin Clark got. Now, I love Caitlin Clark's game. I mean,
Rendell.
she has range.
Rendell.
And in all fairness to her, she didn't say anything negative about Angel Reese. It was the other. So no slight towards Caitlin Clark. She didn't say anything. She took it.
Yes, sir. Hey, Rendell, can you hear me?
Around her, right?
Rendell, can you hear me? Hey,
Yes,
I
sir.
want to touch on something. Yes, Angel Reese was balling. Of Alex Morris was balling, and even Jasmine Carson was balling.
Yeah.
And when they stopped Caitlin Clark and began to win that game, you could see the demeanor, like, hey, I'm not supposed to be getting beat. It goes back to this whole white supremacy thing that I'm not supposed to be getting beat by these people, and you can see that in a real sense, and you can see it in the crowd too, because I'm an analyst, and I just don't look at the game. I look at everything that's going on, and so you could see that, hey, these girls are beating our girls, and white America don't want us to beat them at anything. And so all of these
Yes,
are
sir.
overlaid in this game.
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right, sir, because you could see the frustration on Caitlin Clark's face with those couple offensive fouls that she got, with that push off,
Absolutely.
And I just think that, I just think it's pretty sad that all the attacks on Angel Reese at the end of the day, she just gave it back. Trash talk is a part of sports. It was nothing disrespectful. It was just trash talk back and forth, and gave it back to Clark at the end of the day. And you're absolutely right about Keith Olbermann. He had to apologize after he said those vulgar things about Angel Reese. He was out of line. So I just hope they move on, and I do look forward to them playing again, whether it be in the WNBA or whatever. So I'll be keeping my eye on this rivalry down the line. Between these two players, because they will meet again at some point in time in their careers,
Oh, yes.
We'll see what will happen then.
One final point. Angel Reese already had her numbers. Angel Reese played for Maryland for 2 years before she went to LSU, and they beat Caitlin and Iowa both times. And so this is the third time Angel Reese beaten her. So that's what it is. So we got another caller on the line, and thanks, Rendell. We'll see you soon at other podcast. And so caller number 3, you there?
Good morning, Pastor McNeal. This is Brother Ron Martin from the metropolis of Maryville, Tennessee.
All right, Maryville, Tennessee. Good to have you, Brother Ron. Hey, I want to ask you a couple of questions. We had other 2 callers just gave their raw thoughts on this, but I want to be more specific with you for the rest of this broadcast here. Racism was no doubt a part of it, but I want you to speak not just to the racism, but I want you to speak to the misogynist mentality, different standards for women than there are for men. And so it's good to have a man speak, because we're often the culprit of being misogynistic and having these double standards towards women. A woman is not supposed to act like that. A woman is not supposed to have that type of swag. A woman is not supposed to be like that. And so let's speak to that, and then we'll talk about another topic.
Amen. Just before I speak directly to that, and I will, Pastor, I want to correct the first 2 callers. That I just read an article the other day. That move where you can't see me was not invented by the white wrestler CN or whatever his name is. It was invented in 2005 by a black rapper.
All right.
So
well, thanks for that information.
Amen. In 2005, a black rapper. Now, I'm too old to be knowing about rappers, but I do read articles, and 2005, if you want to fact check me, you can go back and find the article and find out who actually did. And CNN, whatever the guy's name is, gave credit to this black rapper for the one who invented that move.
Well, Brother Ron, that's just par for the course. Hey, Elvis took our soul, and so that's par for the course. So, hey, black invented it, and white take advantage of it. That's how it is.
Now, Pastor, I'm trying not to be long, but
I'm not going to let you be long.
And I haven't done my total research yet. Here is a provocative thought for you, and I'm going to leave it there. But what if Christopher Columbus, was called a Marrano, and a Marrano is a Portuguese or Spanish, a Portuguese or Spanish word for Jews, black Jews who were forcibly converted to Catholicism. I'm going to leave it right there and talk about the site, because that's a whole nother subject right there. But that's talking about the mentality, Pastor, of white folks always having privilege. And then they, more to your point concerning misogynism, that women are not supposed to be the athletes
Pat Summitt. Pat Summitt. You can't forget her name. She is the icon.
Amen. Amen. She put it on the map that women could be just as competitive as men and just as exciting as men. And we saw that. I didn't see the game, to be honest with you, but those who saw it said it was demonstrated in spades on Sunday.
Well, I'm a living witness of. I've always liked women's basketball over men, and Pat Summitt was the impetus for that in the great Tennessee Volunteers. I knew them before I even know anything else about Tennessee, and so Pat Summitt always has and always will be the icon of women's basketball and college basketball. And so she's on par with all the greats, John Wooden, Mike Krzyzewski, and all the other greats, Dean Smith, all the other greats. One quick thing, Ron. Keep it in the lane. Keep it in the lane.
Amen.
One quick thing. One final point I want to make.
Misogyny. It goes. This feeling about women and not being equal to men equates to whites not being equal to blacks. Blacks always being lesser. And I would challenge anyone who listens to this program, have you ever heard of an expression, the great black hope? That's never been said. You see, black folks, when they think of their athletes, they are superheroes. They just buy it. They just are. But they don't approach the status of gods.
Yes, sir. Hey, Brother Ron.
Superheroes, their superheroes approach gods and goddesses.
Hey, Brother Ron, we got a few more seconds.
The basketball game, but when I turned on the news and I saw that the headline said, the gesture that Reese did to Caitlin went viral. All I had to do was see a black woman in front of a white face, and I knew exactly what was going on.
Hey, Brother Ron, can you hear me?
Yes.
I hear your passion. Let me just hit you with one final thing, and I want you to keep this in lane.
Amen.
The president, wife, the first lady, Jill Biden, invited both teams. We know the custom is to invite the winner. And just real quickly, in 3 or 4 words, what do you think about that?
It is typical what that all-white team in Iowa did to diss not only the first lady, but how dare you be on the same level, bringing my team in with that all-black team.
Thank you, Brother Ron, and thank you, all the callers. Let me end this podcast with a few notes here. I want to talk about Jill Biden and inviting both teams. We know she couldn't help but see those wonderful white women from Iowa, and she couldn't help but see those beautiful black women from LSU. So she wanted to invite both of them. She broke all types of protocol, but that just goes back to that whole notion that, hey, white got to always be right, and they cannot step back for black. Oh, I like that. White needs to always be right, and they cannot step back from black. That's my notion from her inviting that almost all-white team from Iowa with the winners who only deserve to be there to shine the light on them. White always needs to be right, and black needs to step back. Just another perpetuation of what has happened in America. And I want to finally give Angel Reese and the LSU women big-time props, and especially Angel Reese. In all of her interviews, she said, I took this opportunity to send a message to girls who look like me, with the eyelashes, with the swag, with their sun-kissed skin, that they too belong, and that she wasn't going to step down from the stage for anybody or anything. I want to leave you with this paraphrase quote from Nelson Mandela. He said, never play small so others can feel big. Angel Reese, you did not play small, so anybody, white or otherwise, in America can feel big. Continue to be big because you are worthy of all the accolades, all the accomplishments, all the achievement, and to showcase it boldly and brilliantly that you did. Thanks again, all of my callers. Thank you for watching The Real Deal with Dr. V.J. McNeal. Remember, if it ain't real, it's a no deal. God bless you until our next podcast. This is just part one of white privilege in sports.